General Counsel, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Perfect. Well, with that, I will open the Thursday, September 24th, 2020 meeting of the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority. Our first item is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? And if not, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Mark Wallner, move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Our next item is real estate bond volume 4% credits pyramid at 3,500. Peter Nelson will be presenting this for us. Thank you, Peter. Welcome.
Good morning. I think my camera's on now. There we go. Everybody see me okay?
Yes, sir.
Maybe? Okay. Yes, I am here this morning to recommend pyramids at 3,500. So this is the 12th application we received and reviewed in the 2020 bond round. Total development cost of just over $26.5 million. They are requesting $23 million in bond volume and $592,852 in LIHTC. It will create 130 units in Indianapolis. So GPSN Property LLC is proposing new construction of a 130 unit mixed income property. So the property will contain 78 rent restricted units and 52 market rate units. It will be age restricted for those 55 and older. So that age restriction is 80% of the units must have a resident that is at least age 55 or older. And the project is a mix of studio and one bedroom units. The vast majority being one bedroom units. This project is on the west side of Indianapolis in the Lafayette Square area. It contains a lot of amenities, fitness center, theater room, game room, a cafeteria that's open to all the residents. And the site is in a pretty good location, close to a lot of things, adjacent to a bus stop, and within like a mile and a half of pretty much any amenity you could need: grocery, pharmacies, banks, retail. So the development team presented this project to us, and staff was able to review it, make sure it met the qualifications of the 2020-2021 qualified allocation plan. And we are happy to recommend the full allocation of bond volume and tax credits for this project. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Board, are there any questions for Peter?
Madam Chair, I had one question. Is this a group that you have done business with previously, or is this the first project that they've run through IHCDA?
That is a good question. This is their first tax credit project, at least in Indiana. So the developer does have experience with senior projects. That's kind of their main focus with their business model, is developing senior housing developments. But this is their first foray into tax credits, at least with us. Okay. What we do in those instances is, we don't have any restrictions on new developers coming in and doing tax credit projects. So long as they meet all our criteria, we don't want to hamper anybody from creating new affordable units in the state. Obviously, that's a big need. But we do look at development team members, and they are working with an experienced developer as a consultant. And we also do look at different things that we require from developers as far as threshold goes, including like some financial information to make sure they do have capacity to do a project like this. So even though it is kind of their first step into tax credits, they are fairly well vetted, and we do look at development team and different things around that to make sure that they can handle a project such as this.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Peter, where
additional
is it exactly?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Where is it exactly located?
So it's on the west side in the Lafayette Square area, 3500 Lafayette Road.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Peter? Peter, we're ready for your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding $23 million in bond volume and $592,852 in annual LIHTC to 3500 LP for pyramids at 3500 according to the terms of the 2020 AB application round as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Peter. The next item on our agenda is our COVID-19 CHODO operating supplemental funding. Chris Nevels is making that presentation. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. I am here to present our recommendation for COVID-19 CHODO operating supplement funding. So just to give a quick background, the HOME program provides funding for the construction and rehabilitation of affordable housing for low and moderate income residents. HOME funding can also be used for capacity building activities for community housing development organizations, or CHODOs. CHODOs are IHCDA certified not-for-profit housing organizations that meet certain home regulations and are eligible to receive home funds. So CHODOs, in addition to receiving funding for projects, can also apply for additional funding known as CHODO operating supplement. Under normal circumstances, a CHODO operating supplement grant can only be awarded in conjunction with an approved home activity. Additionally, there are some other restrictions, such as a CHODO can only receive CHODO operating supplement funds in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per project or $50,000 total within one program year. Additionally, CHODO operating funds can be used for the reasonable and necessary cost of the operation of the CHODO, including salaries, benefits, training, travel, and equipment. So on April 10th, 2020, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development released a memo providing guidance on statutory suspensions and regulatory waivers meant to enable participating jurisdictions affected by COVID-19 to use home funds to address immediate housing needs and to help prevent the spread of the virus. Among other things, this guidance increased the amount of CHODO operating supplement that participating jurisdictions could set aside. They increased that number from 5% to 10% of its annual allocation. And they also waived the $50,000 operating supplement funding limit and the requirement that operating supplement funds have to be awarded in conjunction with a home project under the 2019 annual action plan. So in light of this, IHCDA held a public hearing on proposed changes to our method of distribution on May 20th and accepted public comments between May 15th and May 22nd. We did not receive any public comments during that period. We also interviewed nonprofits and CHODOs in August of this year as part of our Rural Road to Recovery plan. And those nonprofits all discussed the need that they had for additional administration funding to assist with changes in how they're delivering their services due to COVID-19. After those public hearings, IHCDA amended our 2019 annual action plan to increase the amount of set-aside funding we had for CHODO operating supplement. On June 29th, we began accepting supplemental funding applications for eligible CHODOs to request up to $50,000 in operating supplement. The deadline for applications was August 10th. Kind of how it worked was that organizations who had previously been certified as CHODOs through our 2019 home rental or home buyer round were required to submit an affidavit in which they certified that the organization continued to meet all the CHODO requirements that had been reviewed and verified at the time of their initial application in the earlier 2019 round. Organizations that had not been certified in that 2019 home round were required to submit the entire CHODO application and all the required supplemental documentation so that staff could do a full review of those and determine if they met the CHODO requirements. So IHCDA received a total of 11 applications. Of the 11 applications that we received, 9 had previously been certified as CHODOs in the 2019 home rental or home buyer round. After reviewing the applications to make sure all requirements were met, IHCDA staff is recommending 10 of those applicants receive CHOTO operating supplement funding amounts in the total of $50,000 each. In Table A there, you can see all the organizations that we are recommending for funding, as well as the service areas that they work in. So you can see the 10 groups there. And so we are recommending the approval of operating supplement and the amount of $50,000 for each of these groups, totaling $500,000. And with that, I will open it up to any questions the board might have.
Hey, Chris, how many total CHOTOs are there in the state?
So it's kind of, HUD is a little vague in terms of how long you stay a CHOTO after you're certified as a CHOTO. But based on what we approved in our last funding round, we had, one second, let's see. I think we had, 10. We had 10 approved in our last funding round. And then in addition to that, we had 2 new groups that are coming in with this group right now. And one of them is being approved this month. So we're around 10 to 15, depending on what time period of the year that you're asking.
And they cover they will cover the entire state, so they're spread out to where their coverage encompasses the entire state.
So we don't have, you can see the service area for the groups that we're approving in this round here. There's a big concentration of groups in kind of south central region of the state. We also have one that covers the Northwest, and there is kind of a gap, I would say, in the western region of the state, at least for these groups that are being funded right now. But actually, we have one other applicant. As you can see in there, we received 11 and we're recommending 10. The 11th group we're not actually denying. They just have to do some additional work to get their board composition to meet CHOTO requirements, and we're anticipating that we'll be able to bring them to the board next month. And they actually cover, I think it's 11 counties in the northwest portion of the state. So that'll actually kind of fill a gap that we have right now as well. So the entire state is not covered. Every county, all 92 counties aren't covered by a CHOTO. But we are definitely working on outreach in those areas that aren't covered to try and bring groups in to work there.
So you do have a plan to try to, in the future, ensure that every part of Indiana is served by a CHOTO?
Sure. One thing we're considering after this round is approved is possibility of having another CHOTO operating supplement round like this one, where we're focusing on the areas the counties that weren't hit by groups that were funded in this one. So the areas where there are gaps. And then also working with the not-for-profits that are existing in the areas but that haven't come in to be certified as a CHOTO to increase their capacity, kind of explain the benefits of being certified as a CHOTO and work with them so that they can get to the point where they can come into us and be certified as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions, board members? Chris, we're ready for your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding home CHOTO operating supplement funding in the form of grants in an aggregate amount not to exceed $500,000 to the applicants as set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Next item on our agenda is community programs, and the first one is Emergency Solutions Grant, CARES Act Regional Allocation, and LB Hilton will be presenting, and I believe, LB, we have 2 resolutions on this item, correct?
That is correct.
All right, do you want to do them one at a time, or do you want to do them all together and then vote separately?
Let's do the memo separately if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so I will start with the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act regional allocations. As many of you know, we received at IHCDA communication from HUD on April 2nd and June 9th of this year that we would retain 2 rounds of Special Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG funds, through the CARES Act. And these program funds were allocated to the Indiana Balance of State, which includes every Indiana county except for Marion. And the amounts were a little over $13 million and $18 million in funds. And the use of these funds has to be to prevent, prepare for, or respond to coronavirus among individuals and families who are currently experiencing homelessness, who are receiving homeless assistance currently, or they may need to receive homeless assistance. So we labeled these funds as ESGCB 1 and 2, and the total is over $31 million that IHCDA has been allocated from HUD. We communicated to HUD that we plan to use these dollars in the following activities: rapid rehousing, street outreach, emergency shelter operations, homeless prevention, the use of the HMIS or Homeless Management Information System, administrative expenses, and some additional activities that HUD has approved through waivers and additional guidance. This funding and plan was approved through HUD through our amendment to the 2019 Consolidated Plan Annual Action Plan. With the first allocation of funding, ESGCB 1, we split these into 2 categories. A portion was used to fund the IHCDA rental assistance portal, and those funds were the homeless prevention dollars that we used. And this was approved through the Executive Director's extended delegated authority. The second pot of money was used for rapid rehousing, shelter, and outreach, and those funds were directly subbed out to subrecipients. They did not go through the intake process. So those were labeled RSO funding. So with our ESGCB 1, we had hub funding, through the rental intake process, and RSO funding. You can see in Table A how we communicated the amount that we have already allocated through ESGCB 1 and the amount that we have left over. And with ESGCB 2, it's the amount that we have been allocated, the amount that we would retain at IHCDA for HMIS expenses and some administrative expenses. And then you can see that we have about a little over $22 million remaining from ESGCB 1 and 2 that is available to allocate. So with this remaining $22 million, we continue to have the same funding plan with some minor changes. So we would still have hubs, and we would still have the rental intake process, and we would use the fund that with the homeless prevention dollars, and we would still have subrecipients with the RSO funding. Since these funds need to be distributed fairly quickly to subrecipient organizations, we are requesting the approval of a regional approach to allocate these funds. The balance of state continuum of care is split into 16 regions, and we proposed funding be allocated to each region based on a formula. And from there, IHCDA staff will continue with their normal application process and review process for both the hubs and the RSO subrecipients. So that would mean we would have 2 applications, one for the hubs that will work in the rental intake process, and one for the subrecipients who would have that RSO funding. Once the applications would be received, my team at Community Services would confirm the accuracy of the applications. They would review them and score them. And they would review things like, are they a current subrecipient? Are they in good standing with us and with HUD? Have they experienced an increased demand because of COVID-19? Things like that. Once they're reviewed, we'll score them, and then we will present a slate of our subrecipients and hubs to the IHCDA Executive Director. We recommend that he is given delegated authority through December 31st, 2020 to review and approve such subrecipients and hubs, as long as the amounts fall within the board-approved allocated totals. In turn, the Executive Director will update the board when he has approved the final funding, and we recognize as a staff that there may be situations where one region actually has an increase in need that we did not anticipate. So if we had a major reallocation, we would bring that back to the board. The regional allocations being recommended are listed in Table B. In that table, you can see the regions. They're 1 through 14, and there's 1A and 2A. That's how we get to 16. And the table includes the service areas, so the counties they serve. It also ranks them from highest number of applications received in the first round of the rental assistance process to the lowest amount. So we based our need on the number of applications that we received and created percentages based on that need. We then multiplied the percentages by the amount of CARES Act funding available for ESG, the $22 million, and then that helped us figure out how much should be allocated to each region for the hubs and the RSO funding. You can see that the total amount is about 97%, and so we have about 2.66% left over, which is a little over $588,000 that we have available, and we put that as a general allocation in case there are situations where we need to allocate funding quickly to a region who has a high need, high demand, and we would just use those leftover funds. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for LB? LB, you ready for your resolution?
Was there a question?
Was there a question?
No.
Okay.
I will read the resolution. Staff recommends approving a regional allocation of the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $22,123,985.43 as set forth in Table B.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
Happy to approve. Mark Wallner.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do you want me to read the
Opposed,
second?
nay? Motion is approved. Yes, Albie, please read the second one.
Thanks. Staff recommends delegated authority be granted to the IHCDA Executive Director until December 31st, 2020 to approve HUB and RSO subrecipient awards in amount not to exceed the regional allocation table set forth in Table B to qualifying organizations that request Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act funds.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Motion carries. Thank you, Albie, and I believe you also are presenting on the Emergency Solution Grant CARES Act Rapid Rehousing Shelter Outreach Funding.
That is correct. This one's a little less complicated. This is the last ESGCB1 allocation that needs approved. So this was before the remaining amount that I discussed in the last memo. Again, on April 2nd of this year, HUD communicated that we would receive a first round of ESG CARES Act funding, and that amount was a little over $13 million. Again, used to prepare for, and respond to coronavirus for individuals experiencing homelessness or who may experience homelessness. Similar to the other memo, we went through a amendment process with HUD, and we communicated our plan, created a substantial amendment, and that was approved by HUD. In that, we set up the rental assistance portal through the homeless prevention dollars, and we also created an allocation, a funding amount of about $4 million to ESG current subrecipients who saw an increase in need based on the coronavirus. And again, this was labeled as RSO funding. Subrecipients had 3 opportunities to apply for this RSO funding in case they realized, okay, our need is increasing, or they had changes that happened over a 3-month period. The June funding requests were approved on July 22nd under the IHCDA Executive Director's Extended Delegated Authority, and that amount was $1,230,710. This current memo includes requests of July and August for the RSO funding for ESGCB1. These requests were accepted and reviewed by my division to confirm the following items: if they were a current subrecipient, if they were in good standing, they had an increased demand or need because of the coronavirus, and they were appropriate expenses. Table A lists the funding organizations that we recommend and including the service areas that they serve. And again, if this allocation is approved, the remaining amount of ESG CB1 has been rolled into that regional allocation process I communicated. I'll take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions for Albie? We're ready for your resolution.
Sounds good. Staff recommends awarding an allocation of the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $939,844 for rapid rehousing, shelter and outreach, RSO, to the organizations set forth in Table A.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Albie.
Thank you.
Next, moving into finance, our first item is Vita of Marion LLC bond recommendation. Rich Harcourt will be here with us presenting all of the items under finance. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor and Board. Thank you. So you have in front of you 4 separate projects in which we'll be asking for permission for IHCDA to be the issuer of the tax-exempt indebtedness on this, the non-recourse tax-exempt indebtedness. Recall from a former board presentation that IHCDA is working hard to be the issuer on all the tax-exempt indebtedness going forward, as we do have some reporting responsibilities to the IRS. So as we've spoken in the past, you'll see more and more of these, and today you see 4 of them. So the first one is Vita of Marion. You as a board approved this on July 20th. It's 139 independent and senior units. It's new construction. The dollar amount is $28,713,626. Again, this is non-recourse indebtedness issued by IHCDA. Staff recommends the board approve issuance of the Series 2020 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds Vita of Marion project pursuant to the attached resolution.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Rich. The next item is the Woda Cooper moving forward RD 4% LP bond recommendation.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. This is part of the USDA RD funding initiative that was put in place a year or so ago. You as a board approved this transaction on December of 19, and it includes 4 sites that are rehabbed, and they are family and senior. This originally was approved at $3,590,000. It has been moved to $4 million as explained in the memo, and as RD had some additional requirements tied to the property. Staff recommends the board approve issuance of the Series 2020 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, parentheses WC, moving forward RD 4% limited partnership project, close parentheses, pursuant to the attached resolution.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item is the Justice Greystone bond recommendation. Rich?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. This, like the previous one, is a USDA approved project under the Moving Forward program. This particular project includes 10 sites. You as a board approved this on December 19th. Primarily family and senior sites, all rehab, a total of $18 million. Staff recommends the board approve issuance of the Series 2020 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, parentheses, Justice Indiana Portfolio Project, close parentheses, pursuant to the attached resolutions.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval, Mike Schotmeyer.
Andy plays second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And Rich, last but not least, Bellevue of New Albany bond recommendation.
Thank you for your patience. The last one is Bellevue of New Albany LLC includes 3 sites. You approved this as a board on July of 20. It is a rehab project in those sites and primarily family housing for a total of $16,535,000. Staff recommends the board to approve issuance of the Series 2020 multifamily housing revenue bonds, parentheses, Bellevue of New Albany project, close parentheses, pursuant to the attached resolution.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion? Oh, no, wait. Questions? I got ahead of myself. Sorry.
We're moving quickly.
I think we're ready for your resolution, Rich.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the Series 2020 multifamily housing revenue bonds, parentheses, Bellevue of New Albany project, close parentheses, pursuant to the attached resolution as recommended by staff.
Board, we have now have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second, Mike Schotmeyer.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, board.
And now our executive director will have an update for us. Welcome, Jake.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. First, just want to say thanks to LB for her leadership with the Emergency Solutions Grant and the coronavirus funds that we've received from HUD to respond to the pandemic that we have, especially when it comes to working with folks that are experiencing homelessness or at risk of being homeless. And her and the entire team in our community service department are just have really stepped up and done a great job. As you can see, it is very there's a lot of information and it's always changing. And the plan that she put forth in terms of developing a hub concept of ensuring that all 91 counties have the opportunity to receive these dollars. If it wasn't for that innovative idea that she had, we know that there would be gaps in our state where individuals who may be at risk of being homeless may not have the opportunity to be served. But her regional concept has really, I just want to thank her for that, because without that type of leadership, without that type of innovative problem solving, we would have gaps in our state, just like we do. So, but LB's done a great job, and I just want to thank her and the team. I probably should also thank, if I'm going to thank LB, I better thank Chris Nevels too. We had some waivers there with the HUD program for our community housing development organizations and ensuring that we're able to provide those operating dollars so that they can continue to develop and maintain the affordable housing across our state. And those dollars are primarily, those areas are primarily in our smaller communities where we know that there are very limited resources available for organizations. So there's that. And I know Chris didn't mention it about how we're continuing to build capacity across our state to bring on new CHODOs. But you know, with Samantha Spurgle too, we have a very robust training program and always inviting and outreaching to new not-for-profits to explore the opportunity to become a CHODO. Obviously, there are some federal requirements that they have to meet, but our training that we provide for not-for-profits and the time and the resources that we invest into ensuring that we have the capacity really is a testament to Sam and Chris's leadership as well, because they are dedicated to try to fill as many gaps as we can with our CHODO and our home funds. So with that, I probably should just say thanks to Rich and Peter on the bond side, on the multifamily bonds. Obviously, we're seeing a high volume there, and there hasn't been any disruption with our multifamily bond program. And at the same time, we're still making some tweaks as we respond to the pandemic, especially as we think about design and how we're going to develop affordable housing in the future, and our priorities that we've laid out with the rural recovery plan, and also some feedback that we're receiving in partnership with FSSA with that as well. So just hats off to Peter and Rich for helping us make sure that there's no disruption in ensuring that we're continuing to build and preserve affordable housing using our 4% multifamily bonds. So with that, I want to touch on the Indiana Rental Assistance Fund that we've had the opportunity to administer for the state using the coronavirus relief funds. Just recap, we have $40 million that we're administering. As of the deadline was August 26th to submit applications from renters. We received just over 36,000 applications. We're still processing those applications. And as of last night, we had paid out about 22 million of the 40 directly to landlords. And that's still a process we're working through. And we're probably sending out close to about $1 million a day to landlords to pay for those, provide that rental assistance to those that have applied. So we're still going through that. Obviously, there's a lot of administrative work that goes into this, and just about almost everyone in the agency has chipped in some way to help us with this program, and then outside the agency as well. As I mentioned, I shared with you too, we've had the Indiana National Guard helping us, 20 members. They are stepping off at the end of the month, this month. However, I think we may be able to keep a small team from the Guard to continue to help us, especially on now we've transitioned into really working with landlords to make sure that we have the documentation from them so that we can make those payments. That's obviously a lot of work, a lot of time involved in making those relationships with our landlords. So, but hats off to everyone in the agency who has worked on our rental assistance program. I know that they work tirelessly on this after hours, on the weekends, you name it. Everyone's been really chipping in on this one. So still full steam ahead on our rental assistance program. The energy assistance program, on September 14th, we began accepting applications online for the energy assistance program year 2020-2021. And one of the things that we're able to do this year, we had about 17 million in Energy Assistance CARES Act funding that we're able to provide an enhanced benefit to households who have had a loss of income. And that enhanced benefit's about $350 that we can provide to households on top of their traditional benefit that they would have received. So, and if you want to know about that traditional benefit, last year, our average benefit was about $565 per household. And last year, we did serve just over 114,000 households with the energy assistance program. So we've launched the program this week. We also sent out a press release, and I got to thank our communications director, Brad Meadows. He's done a really nice job with creating a communication toolkit that's going to bring more awareness to the energy assistance program, and also helping our utility service providers communicate the opportunity of the energy assistance program. With that also, Brad has done a lot of outreach when it comes to targeting specific trade organizations that represent some of the hardest hit Hoosiers, specifically in the travel and leisure industry and the airline industry, to make them aware of the additional $350 benefit. And Brad has done a really nice job with coordinating with them to make sure that we can have a trusted source where this information comes from with these organizations, so that we know that we can really inform those who have had a loss of income related to the pandemic about the energy assistance program and the opportunity that might be available for them. So another individual here who's just really stepped up is our EAP manager. As you can imagine, Thomas Hartnett Russell has really taken a great leadership role in this, in ensuring that the program has been designed and has gotten off the ground like we planned for it to get off the ground on September 14th. So Thomas has done a great job. Earlier this week, he was on the Township Trustees Conference and did a presentation about the program and informing our township trustees about the additional $350 benefit, and then obviously the EAP program in general and the qualifications and criteria for that to be eligible for the program. So, and how that works. So Thomas has done a really nice job for us as well. So on the home ownership side, we continue to see very, very strong demand for our single family products. I know earlier this year, back in March and April, we were really concerned about where the single family market was going. However, it has exceeded all of our expectations. And in fact, just to give a side-by-side comparison, if you look at where we were in this time last year in 2019, our total volume of single family was around 199 million. Today, actually last Friday, we were about 280 million. So as you can see, our volume has really picked up this year. We're really performing at a very, very high level. And in fact, probably within the next week, we will eclipse our total production from 2019. The single family team, again, has done a really nice job. And I say that because September is also the National Mortgage Professionals Month. And I know very few people really appreciate or understand what goes on behind the scenes in the mortgage industry and understand really the hard work that happens to make sure that home ownership for those that are looking to buy a home actually happens. And so, I just want to thank, I guess, the industry, mortgage underwriters, our loan officers, our loan processors, our closing and post-closing and compliance team members across our state and in our mortgage lending industry for the work that they do. Obviously, many of them they all play a very important role in making sure that someone can finance buying a home. And obviously, they have been very flexible and adapted to the pandemic and really changing their processes and changing the way that they do business to ensure that there's no disruption in that industry. And so we're very thankful for them. I'm also very appreciative, and I need to acknowledge and just give a good shout out to the amazing homeownership team at IHCDA. As I mentioned, you see the numbers. They are performing at an extremely high level with the products that we've had. They've continued to make some tweaks to our products to respond to the very changing dynamics within the mortgage industry. Obviously, our interest rates are at an all-time low, historic low, where we are right now, which is one of the reasons why our numbers are really exceeding our expectations. We also worked on enhancing our down payment assistance. And so I got to thank the IHCDA homeownership team, Kim, Tom, Mark, Brian, Marianne, Katrina, and Dee Dee. It's a small team, but boy, are they mighty, and they're doing an amazing job right now. As you can imagine, the volume that we're seeing, the reliance on working remotely, relying on technology, no disruption, and the numbers are demonstrating that there has been no disruption in our single family products and the team and the department. So they're all hitting on all cylinders right now. And like I said, we're actually going to eclipse last year's numbers here within the next few days. So just hats off to the homeownership team. Just thank them for everything that they've done. So it really is an honor to be a part of that team. I enjoy seeing their work every day. So, and then with that, just a reminder, our October board meeting is October 22nd at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it'll also be another virtual meeting. So, Lieutenant Governor, that's my update for the month of September. Happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, I had one comment. Jake, these last 6 months have obviously been extremely difficult. So I wanted to commend you and your entire staff and all the great work that's occurred over that time period, because it really is one of the more critical periods this agency's been through. So congratulations on keeping things moving, getting money out the door, and helping all these people in the state.
Yep. Second that, yes.
I
Thank
think-
you.
All in
Happy
favor,
with
say
happens
aye.
with a great team.
Yes, thank you, Jake. Through your agency, you're helping some of our most vulnerable Hoosiers. So thank you for your efforts and your team's efforts on that. And thank you, Tom, for recognizing that. Are there any additional questions of Jake? Is there any further business to come before the board?
Move for dismissal.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Have a great day, a great month, and we will see you in October.